Open in prayer 3 times, please. May all sentient beings have happiness and cause of happiness. May they be free from suffering and cause of suffering. May they never be apart from this blind bliss that is free from suffering. May they remain in a state of equanimity, free from attachment and aversion to those near and far. May all sentient beings have happiness and the cause of happiness. May they be free from suffering and cause of suffering. May they never be apart from this blind bliss that is free from suffering. May they remain in a state of equanimity, free from attachment and aversion to those near and far. May all sentient beings have happiness and the cause of the happiness. May they be free from suffering and the cause of the suffering. May they never be apart from this blind bliss that is free from suffering. May they remain in a state of equanimity, attachment and aversion to those near and far. Okay. The root text, number 5. When by having trained yourself in this way, Khenpo Sherab Sangpo yourself in this way means last time we say there are 2 things, right? When you think about the freedom and advantages are difficult to find and life has no time to waste. By gaining familiarity with this, attraction to the appearances of this life is diminished. 2 diminished last time. One is the this life, and then by thinking over and over again, that action and their effects are inevitable, and then we continue suffering, silly existence. Attraction to appearance of future life is diminished. So that in this way, here says in this way, when by having trained yourself in this way, I think that's that. When you don't desire the perfections of cyclic existence, even for a second, and all day and night, the intention seeking liberation arises. At that time, you have developed renunciation. Terter kombin kor Phuntsok la yimman ka jiktam yang merchesha, nimtsin kan tarwa tonyer lo shona te ngin jong jewa yin in Tibetan. So this stanza is the definition of having generated renunciation, the characteristic of renunciation. Especially the last 2 lines here says the all day and night the intention seeking liberation arises. At that time you have developed renunciation. So this is the characteristic of renunciation mind. So famous. This is very famous stanza, which is great definition of renunciation. So you see there's nothing about like giving things up. If you practice renunciation, you have to give this, your friend, your property, your belongings, nothing say about that. So the definition of renunciation is, all the time I want attain liberation. So this means like you have to understand the value of the teachings, your practice, your meditation. once you have that, like genuinely, okay, then that means you have renunciation mind. It says your intention, intention seeking liberation. That's the definition of renunciation. It's so good here, and so that's definition. Tsongkhapa talks about the definition of renunciation in this stanza. So the genuine renunciation is wanting liberation from samsara. Okay, so that's why here Lama Tsongkhapa explains the meaning of renunciation so nicely. You have to understand that. You have to don't forget that. That's especially this last two lines. This is the definition of renunciation. Okay, so usually when we talk about renunciation, most people, I say this is very important and this is very nice. Lama Tsongkhapa, explains very nicely the definition of renunciation because, usually most people think you have to, give up everything, when you hear, like the word renunciation, but it's not really giving up everything. So that is misunderstanding of renunciation. Okay, otherwise we can't practice renunciation. Um, Even like I can't give up everything. If that's the renunciation, I can't practice renunciation. Especially in the West, the word renunciation has a different sort of connotation, and people get scared that they will lose their pleasures, and we want pleasure, we like happiness and all of that, right? Their happiness. If you practice renunciation, they think like they're going to lose their happiness if they practice renunciation. So the English word, as I said, renunciation probably is not doing this term justice. So, that you should, whoever translate this, I always think this is translation. I think I'm for sure that we have better translation for renunciation, but but now this is very common. Everybody, Nimjong in Tibet, Nimjong, and then they say renunciation in English, so it's very common now. But the meaning, the renunciation is totally, it's not giving thing up. So again, in Tibetan, the word is renunciation. Literally mean, as I said, definitely going, Nimjong, you know. So again, here, definitely where you go, we must take the path of liberation, That's Lama Tsongkhapa says here, that's the definition of renunciation. If we don't do something meaningful now about this life and about future lives, we are wasting, they said, we are wasting our precious opportunity. So I think the problem is that people are afraid of renunciation because they think they have to give up everything if they practice renunciation. And especially sometimes, they give you like example like Milarepa, okay? Milarepa, okay? So then what Milarepa did, he gave everything up, like he lost everything, right? Because that's what he wants. So if you heard that, like the meaning of renunciation and the example of renunciation, then of course, people are afraid of renunciation because, then, you have to give up everything. But that's not. That's completely, I think, it's a complete misunderstanding. So when we're talking about renunciation, we're talking about desire and we're talking about attachment. Okay? So people usually think about objects when we talk about attachment. For example, I am attached to my phone, you know. So I really want to practice renunciation, for example. So that means I have to give up my phone, right? So if I give up my phone, now I don't have my phone, right? So I give up. I don't have my phone. So the question is, do I have renunciation mind once I give up my phone? Do I have renunciation mind? I think not necessarily, you know, because I have not sort of diminished my attachment, my desire, and my attachment. My attachment is still there, you know. That's the thing. So as long as you have attachment in your mind, okay, then it doesn't matter how much you give up your belongings and your property or whatever, you know. If you don't remove the root of the tree of attachment, it doesn't matter. If you, for instance, if you cut out the branch of this tree, you know, the tree will grow again, right? So the thing is, you know, like I give up my phone, but just it's like I cut off the branch of the tree. So it's tree, it doesn't matter. It's tree. I mean, I don't have the branch now. Yeah. But I have a tree and no worry, it will grow again, right? So I think that's same thing. You know, there was a there was a teacher and one day give up all his belongings like clothes and everything, and then the next day, of course, he want to buy more, you know, clothes because he doesn't have it. You know, that day, some reason, whatever, is like, oh, I want to practice renunciation, so give up everything. And that's not true. Next day you want it bad. So uh, what I'm saying is, you know, like if you are full of desire inside of your mind, okay, it doesn't really matter how much you give up the things. Then we call it's all superficial. It's like we call it like temporary renunciation. Temporary. So as long as you don't have this kind of renunciation mind, and you're always depend on your desire and all other sort of emotions. As long as you follow desire, as long as you follow your attachment, there is no satisfaction in your mind. So no satisfaction, then no renunciation. So, you know, following desire, that's the thing. Following desire in itself is suffering. Do you get it? Following desire in itself is suffering. In itself is a problem. It's not the you know, it's not the Garjit master, you know, Telopa. He said that it's not the property, it's not the belongings binds you, you know. It's not that your belongings give you a problem. It's attachment. It's attachment and desire that are the problem. So where is attachment? Where is your desire? It's not my phone. It's not your car. It's not your belongings. So everything is, you have to work in. You have to work in with your mind. That's the renunciation. And if you get sort of scared, and if you are afraid, when you think about renunciation, because you think you have to diminish your desire and make sure that you have some satisfaction in mind, that doesn't make much sense. So following desire and not finding satisfaction are the main causes of not having a renunciation mind. That's the bottom line. Because if you examine the nature of your mind, you will find that as long as you follow desire, there is no real renunciation. As long as we are not liberated from this kind of disturbing thought, we will have the experience suffering continuously. It doesn't matter how much you give up your property. It doesn't matter. Because, follow and desire cause you to experience the suffering of, dissatisfaction. And it makes you not seek liberation. That's the thing. What is the definition of renunciation? Seeking liberation, right? Day and night. That's the definition. But if we follow desire, then it makes us not seek liberation. So then the opposite, right? Opposite of the definition of renunciation. So then if we follow our desire, the whole thing is naturally kind of, suffering. No matter how much we follow desire, we will not get satisfaction. That's the thing. If we follow desire and then at the end, we get satisfied, that's enough, then perfect, follow desire. But the problem is the teacher said this. I think it's very, very true, because no matter how much you follow desire, you will not get satisfaction. So that is the nature of desire. And that is the definition of kind of desire. You follow, you want more. You follow, you want more and more, like that. Never get satisfaction, The thing is, like, if you have a little things in your mind, satisfied, whatever you have, then you will be happy, So I think that's the thing. That's the only so renunciation, practice renunciation, the result of renunciation, that's the benefit, So that's the biggest, right? Biggest suffering of samsara is, follow and desire and never receive the satisfaction. I think that's the biggest suffering of samsara. That's why the Kardamba masters said that as long as you have, remember, as I said, as long as you have attachment, you don't have renunciation mind. So attachment, when we say that, you might think, what's wrong with not having a renunciation mind, But, when you think about what binds you to samsara, and what makes you unhappy is not having renunciation mind. You know, even like when we say practice renunciation means diminish your desire and attachment. Some people don't want that, right? Some people like having the desire and attachment, all of that, because they think, for instance, like if you are a business person, if you don't have attachment, desire, your business for sure probably will not successful. But the thing is, then, you know, the root of suffering is, you know, that's Kardamba Master said, you know, if you have no renunciation mind, then you have attachment. And then the result of attachment, that's the biggest suffering of samsara. So again, what is a renunciation mind? What makes you renounce it? The reason we are unhappy, right, is because we have desire for samsaric the objects, and we grasp at them. Renunciation means, as I said, you know, like being more reasonable instead of acting sort of crazy, you know. So whoever is seeking enlightenment needs a renunciation mind. So we must try to eliminate desire and attachment through practice. So practice and renunciation is not giving up our property, but having sort of less desire and attachment inside our mind. So if we understand and if we practice renunciation, I think we can do that because we have good example, right? Good examples that like they called 80 Mahasudras, you know, Indian masters. They're like group, you know, 80 great masters. They have families, they had, you know, everything. But they're 80 masters. It is not family that binds you. It is not having the renunciation mind that binds you. So again, the definition of renunciation is longing for liberation all the time and turn your mind towards enlightenment. In order to do that, as I said, we have to recognize we are fortunate people, precious human life we have, but it's impermanent. And satisfaction, that is the essence of renunciation. Satisfaction, practice satisfaction. Kamala Shala said that, right? Practice satisfaction. So two things, practice satisfaction and limiting desire. These two are very important. Practice and satisfaction, limiting desire. In Tibetan we say ndochong. Ndochong means like limiting desire Chokshiba, dochong chokshi. Chokshi means practice and satisfaction. So in the root text, it says that renunciation is having the intention all day and night to seek liberation. So this is the definition of a renunciation mind. Okay, keep in mind. So then we have to think about how we get that kind of thought, that kind of intention, all day and night to seek liberation. We need to understand the benefit of liberation, right? If we understand the benefit of liberation, then we really want to attain enlightenment. So again, this is the definition of renunciation mind. And practicing renunciation is we understanding our situation, the essence of our lives, and try to diminish our negative motivation. Because you see, attachment, desire, this because of the selfishness, right? That's the root. So that's why we say motivation. Try to diminish our negative motivation, which is the cause of sort of harming others, harming ourselves. So if you try to not harm others, that is practice of renunciation. We can do that, right? Try to not harm others. My teacher, Khenchen Jigmé Phuntsok, said that, What is renunciation? Try to not harm others. That is renunciation. Try to not harm other. How can we do that? Correct your motivation. Correct your motivation. If you correct your motivation, you will understand others' situation because you are not thinking only yourself. Then you can do this, not harming others. So if you do this, then you have renunciation mind. And we should try to not be attached to so many things, okay? So many things that are not necessary in our lives. I always say this, you heard this many times, right? I don't say you have to give up this or you can't get this if something necessary in your life, of course. But try to not be like Kamala Shala said, overly attached to many things. Means like many things that are not necessary in your life, but still you attach to them. What is the point, right? You never use it. What is the point? So that's the thing. If we develop our attachment inside, then you want so many things, but you never use it. But attachment, because of attachment. So these things we should try, try to not harm others, try to correct our motivations, try to not be attached to so many things that are not necessary in our lives. In order to do that, think about practice satisfaction. So all of that are practice of renunciation. And understanding the the benefit of our meditation and practicing the Dharma. That is practice of renunciation, right? That's Lama Tsongkhapa says here. So understanding the value of your meditation and Dharma, your life, that is practice of renunciation. So, renunciation is not difficult. To practice renunciation, not difficult. That's why this is the first step. First step. We can do that, try to not harm others. That's not difficult. Try to not sort of be overly attached to so many things. We can do that. Try to understand the value of our life. Recognize fortunate. That's not difficult. Try to understand the benefit of liberation. That's not difficult. So renunciation is actually the easiest practice, though. That's why the first step. Bodhicitta is more difficult than renunciation, right? And then recognition of emptiness, more difficult. But renunciation is not so difficult. Genuine renunciation may be, difficult, but what we need is not genuine renunciation right now in this situation. So think about like what makes us unable to succeed in our Dharma practice. It is following desire and not finding satisfaction with our mind. And when we talk about renunciation, we are talking about life, right? Life. In order to have a happy life, we need 4 different things. First, very important part of our life, is to have happiness, right? For sure. To have happiness and fun, that's totally fine. Buddhism doesn't deny and reject that. Then in order to have happiness and fun, we need some, like for instance, like money or like things like that. Again, Buddhism doesn't reject that either. That's totally fine. And more importantly, in order to have both of them, okay, happiness and fun, in order to have both of this, we need Dharma. We need practice, which is discipline, right? Which is discipline. We need to know what is right. We need to know what is wrong. And how to do our job, how to act, all of that. That's in Tibetan we call lang tor, what is right, what is wrong. We have to understand that. So that without Dharma practice, both of these will not work very well. Because in the Dharma, there are a lot of good teachings, right? That tells us how to do a good job and how to act properly. Dharma teachings tells us that. So that's why third important is we need Dharma in our life. Of course, I said happiness, fun, money, important, but Dharma more important actually in our life. So that's then in order to sort of achieve that goal, the last one is more important, is important, which is liberation, which is wisdom. wisdom. So these four things, you should remember, these four things are very important part of our lives. Happiness, money, dharma, and liberation. Yeah, you like that, do you? Huh? If I say, give up your business, okay, practice only dharma, right? But if I say happiness, fun together, happiness, fun. Fun is very important, I think. Have fun, happiness, fun. In order to have happiness and fun, money is important. Money. And then dharma. Dharma makes what I said, what is right, what is wrong, right? Otherwise, if you have a lot of money and then you do something bad, right? You don't know how to spend, how to use it. So Dharma teach you, Dharma tells you what to do, what not to do, Dharma. And then last is the more important, liberation. So that's our goal. I think that's the meaning of this life, right? This life. These four things are very important part of a life. So then this is sort of genuine happiness of the mind. If you have all of that, you're physically comfortable, mentally comfortable, so then you can call this is my happiness. Otherwise, right now, what we have, our happiness is kind of, like very poor quality of happiness. But once we have four of this, then that is the genuine, I think, that's genuine sort of happiness. That kind of happiness can only come from training the mind, right? Mind and the attitude. So, Bhakti Rinpoche sometimes say, worldly life and spiritual life can't do together. But that's for certain like people, But most people we can. We can, as my teacher, Khenchen Jigmé Phuntsok, always say that we can do this together. They are not contradict actually, if you know how to do it. So it's very important to understand the point of practice, the value of Dharma, the preciousness of life, and opportunities we have. So then renunciation is not difficult at all. In this text here, Tsongkhapa talks about three things, okay? Our mental attitude, the attitude of renunciation, which is the practice of contentment, right? The attitude of bodhicitta, which is the practice of a kind mind, and the attitude of wisdom, which is the realization of the nature of all dharma, The combination of these three attitudes put together is your ultimate goal. And then your practice will be very beneficial to all beings. So again, here in this stanza, it talks about the definition of a renunciation mind, which is a very, very famous definition. When I heard this when I was very young, like 13 years old, when I studied Buddhist philosophy, we have lots of problem with the renunciation to find a definition, the correct definition of renunciation, and then we asked my teacher Khenchen Pama, what is the real, people, the Buddhist philosophy is so complicated, so they talk so differently. And then we asked him, okay, this Tsongkhapa said this is the renunciation mind, the definition. And we understand. So this is very famous, definition. So don't forget, okay? Don't forget this definition. So, the Tsongkhapa says here, all day and night, intention, seeking liberation arise. At that time, you have developed renunciation. So in Tibetan, there are two different words actually about these things. We say joshi, I don't know, but kind of like means like, I'm not sure exactly, but maybe loosely kind of, translate. Joshi means like sadness about samsara. Maybe I'm wrong, but Joshi, we need this in order to understand the samsara. We use Joshi, but in English, not they don't use this a lot. So I think this is very important. So it's kind of sadness about samsara, because when we think about samsara, we will understand the suffering of samsara, right? So all of these problems and unhappiness, and then we have the sort of experience of sadness, about samsara, I think. And then the other one is nimjong, right? That's, it means renunciation. So Joshi is kind of like important to understand the samsara. Nimjong is important to understand the liberation. So these two works together. Then you have Joshi, you have Nimjong, and the renunciation mind. So once we understand the suffering of samsara, then we need first the sadness about samsara, okay? Which is, I'm taking the negative side, okay, of samsara. Samsara, some are good, right? But in this case, joshi means the sadness about samsara. So once you understand the defects of samsara, the suffering of samsara, then you see, we want to have freedom from the suffering of samsara, right? And we then have the intention, sort of seeking liberation, right? That is we call renunciation mind, nimjong. Khenchen Jigmé Phuntsok always say that first you need joshi, which is the sadness. If I'm correct, I'm not sure. I'm not so sure this word, the sadness. But I think sadness about samsara, he said, you need to understand that. Once you understand that, then automatically the renunciation comes your mind, because then I want free from the suffering of samsara. So that is what we call nimjong, renunciation here. So here Tsongkhapa talks about renunciation. But in order to develop renunciation, we need, as I said, joshi, the mind, the sadness of mind about samsara, okay? That's that. And then now, little bit about meditation. Again, renunciation. When we talk about renunciation, I'm not trying to sort of convince you that your life doesn't have meaning, though. I'm not saying that. Don't misunderstand. But when we talk about renunciation and practice it, then we need to investigate the negative side, right? We always do that. When we practice, we always think about our minds, the negative side, because if we have a good thing, that's always good. You don't have to, worry about it. So, but if we have a negative things, we have to investigate how to develop, how to transform into positive. So therefore, Buddhism always when we talk about samsara, they always take the negative side, So, therefore, I'm talking about renunciation here. So, for instance, This is what I think, imagine, for instance, if you close your eyes and then you think, imagine that you are in line to see a very famous, very beautiful movie, you're aligned, right? And then, but then people in front of you get the last tickets, right? So you have no ticket. You can't. It's very famous. Very. You have desire, to watch the movie, with your best friend and best time and beautiful place and imagine all of that. Okay, you have strong and power sort of attachment and desire to see this, but in front of you, just in front, these people get last tickets. And then a whole bunch of negative emotions arise in your mind, right? You are angry. You are angry at the people in front of you because they got the last ticket. You are angry at the person who sold the ticket, right? You are angry at yourself because you didn't leave earlier. Otherwise, you get the ticket, right? So all these things, then your whole night is ruined because of this, you know. But if you go deeper, why do you feel like this? Why, what is causing all of all of this, negative emotions? Then if you investigate, you will know it's selfishness. It's the selfishness, right? It's the selfishness. That if you investigate, you can see that all of your negative emotions are coming from your own selfish habits. Not this person, not that person, not the movie, but it's from on your selfish habits, right? So if you are not sort of thinking only about yourself, you might feel happy for the people who got the last ticket to the see, this important movie. If you start to investigate the negative emotions that come up in your mind and sort of day to day your life, you will start to see that all of this come from the selfish habit. Selfish habit because of desire and attachment. But once you, if you have chance, if you have a capacity and you starting to sort of change your mind to think of others, and then you would start to free yourself from all this negative habit, then you have a good night, So investigate sort of the emotions that you sort of commonly experience, and this is what I'm trying to give you the instruction, the renunciation, practice renunciation, and there are two things. You have emotions. If the emotions comes from caring only about yourself, then you pause. Okay, this is like another like analytical meditation. You pause there and see how that makes you feel when you follow sort of your selfish samsaric habit, desire, this one. And then you investigate that, all of that, like this following your selfish, following desire, attachment, all of that. That's one thing. And then try to change your focus to caring about others. Okay? others, and pause there and see how that makes you feel when you follow the mind of sort of liberation, renunciation, you know. So now you have two things: following your selfish habit or change focus to carrying others, you know, and think about rejoice, right? Rejoicement. So how do you feel? You will see. You should investigate. Follow your selfish. What is the result of following that? Carrying others. What is the result of that? I think very different feelings, you know. It gives you different feelings. Do that. And then also I would like you to meditate on good fortune. This is very good. Good fortune, right? A good fortune meditation, which means you should think that, you know, oh, I'm so fortunate to have this precious life and I have the freedom to practice. Because Tsongkhapa says here, right? You fortunate ones. I love these words, you know. It's true. He said, you fortunate ones, listen with a clear and pure mind. If you understand you're fortunate, then your mind very clear and you want practice. So you should meditate on your good fortune, okay? So, and then start by thinking about your precious human life and how you have the freedom to practice Dharma and have the possibility to change your attitude, have the capacity to purify, you know, your negative karma. All of this, you have opportunities. You should feel happy and fortunate and how sort of grateful you are to have all of these opportunities. If you meditate good fortune, it makes you very happy, you know. Otherwise, sometimes people think, you know, oh, this is wrong, or you have this regret, that regret, so that makes you unhappy. That's not really true, you know. So we have all these opportunities and good fortune. So we should practice that. And think also about having sort of compassion, you know, towards the suffering of other beings. Those who don't have sort of this human, you know, precious life or fortunate. If you do it by doing that, you are also developing your compassion, right? And do that, and then after that, sort of, you know, just breathe in, relax, breathe out, relax. At the same time, recognize your feelings and your thoughts, and then relax again, like that. Okay? Meditate for a few minutes on good fortune and the other two things that I told you. We'll see how you feel. We have 5 minutes.